New comic book day is almost here again, so it's time to take a look at all the books on my pull list. Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and this is the pull list. It's my weekly video where I take a look at all the books coming out. I'm going to tell you what books are on the pull list, what's hit my chopping block, and we'll even talk about some brand new series that are on the radar for this week, October 2nd, 2024. Yes, the first comic book day of the fourth quarter of the year is here. Feel like you're running out of time on those New Year's resolutions? You probably are. But we got a lot of comics to go over today. But before we do, I got to give a huge shout out to globalcomix. Now, globalcomix is an app that I just recently downloaded. They are a comic book reading app, and they specifically are home to tons and tons of indie comics. I'm talking about like the big boys, like Image, like AWA, all the way to like independent creators like you could literally make a webtoon type comic, upload it to globalcomix, and you could either choose to publish it for free or monetize it. But very recently, they just had a new publisher hit the app, and that is Dark Horse. So now you've got titles like Stranger Things, BPRD, and Hellboy all hitting the globalcomix app. And they're even hitting their brand new verticals format. So if you're familiar with things like webcomics where you're just scrolling vertically and reading comics, seeing the panels in a cool and interesting layout, globalcomix now has that for titles like Stranger Things, and they are uploading new episodes every single week. So check out the globalcomix app. You can actually get them for iOS, Android, or you can even just read them from your web browser. But if you click the link in the description down below and use my coupon code it's GCX BJ Kicks, then you can save 33% on your annual subscription. There's a lot that I love about this app. I kind of want to do a whole separate video about it. But my favorite thing is the fact that you can actually just follow a publisher. And some of these books come out day and date as the print release. So just last week, Dick Tracy, #5 from Mad Cave Studios, was one of my top picks for the week. And I'm scrolling on my phone and I get a notification. It's like, hey, Mad Cave just published Dick Tracy #5. I'm like, oh, snap. I didn't have to go to the comic shop to grab it. It was right there waiting for me in my phone. So I really love this app. Shout out to globalcomix. Again, use the link in the description down below. You can get 33% off a year's subscription. And now you're reading all the comics you want without paying for individual books if you don't want to. So check them out. Now, let's get into the book that I am most excited about this week. And that is from DC Comics, the DC All-In Special. Issue #1. It's a one-shot. This is it. This is where the future of the DC universe begins. They have been teasing this absolute universe and the DC All-In initiative for months now. And now we are finally going to get our first glimpse into this world. All I know about it is that Darkseid is going to sense a disturbance in the force, and somehow the absolute universe is going to be created in this all-in special. It's a flip book. It's written by Joshua Williamson and Scott Snyder. Rafa Sandoval's on art. Wes Craig is on art. It's going to be some very interesting stuff in this book, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. You guys know I love DC Comics, and you know I've been waiting for like something super exciting to happen. I feel like Dawn of DC kind of fizzled out, and ever since they announced this book, it's been hard for me to be excited about the current status quo, because I know that everything at DC is getting a new status quo starting this month, October. So the DC All-In Special, issue #1, I gotta get my hands on that. And it's out this week with a cover price of just $4.99. I'm grabbing cover A. Next up, since we're talking about DC Comics, before we begin a new era, we got to end the previous. Absolute Power, issue #4, is out this week, written by Mark Waid, art by Dan Mora, which honestly, it's been a great event. A bunch of superheroes have been depowered. Amanda Waller is just she is not taking prisoners, and she is on a mission that it feels like no one else really wants to be on. But Waller gets what Waller wants. And well, Waller wants a world without superheroes. How are we going to survive it now that she's called in reinforcements from like all across the multiverse? I don't know. I do know that you need to read this before you read that All In special. But either way, I'm crazy excited about it. The end of DC's Absolute Power event is in issue number 4 out this week. Cover price is $4.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And then technically, what we're about to get is the first of the DC All-In initiative with Batman, issue 153, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Jorge Jimenez. This is a new status quo for Batman. That's the whole thing. Every book at DC is getting a brand new jumping on point. And that's good because I kind of forgot what's been happening before Absolute Power. Actually, I remember Bruce had kind of decided to move into like a brownstone in the middle of the city. Maybe it wasn't a brownstone, but it wasn't the big Wayne Manor. He moved out of Wayne Manor. He's now closer to the action, and he's trying to take an active role in the development of Gotham City. Feels like he's taking a page out of Nightwing's playbook, if I'm honest with you, but seems interesting, so we'll see how this new status quo goes. Starting with Batman 153 is The Dying City, Part 1. Cover price on that is $4.99, and I'm going to grab cover A. And the last book on the pull list could have been a chopping block contender, but I'm not over budget this week, so it's going to stay there. This is Plastic Man No More, issue number 2. This is a Black Label series. I did not write down the creative team, but what I loved about this series, I read the first issue and it was amazing. But the first issue, basically, Plastic Man was a member of the Justice League. He wasn't ever taken seriously. I really love that about it because like all I know about Plastic Man really is that he's funny. He's usually the comic relief. And there's this whole thing where the Justice League just does not take him seriously. No matter what he says, they just assume he's joking. He's being facetious. They're like laughing. They just don't, they take him for a joke, literally all the time. Well, when after a mission sort of goes wrong, Plastic Man kind of starts to melt. Like his arm kind of disintegrates. It never kind of gets back to normal. He's wearing a colostomy bag on his arm. And what he finds out is basically he's dying. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the mission that he went on made it that way. It's likely a result of the initial accident that made him Plastic Man to begin with. And so before he dies, his goal is to mend his relationship with his son and to hopefully find a cure for whatever's ailing him so that his son doesn't have to die as well, because chances are it's going to catch his son sooner or later. And his son wants nothing to do with him. He's been a scumbag for much of his life. And now he's got a literal scumbag on his arm as he tries to go on this redemption arc. This book, issue 1, was awesome. And so now that I'm talking about it, I don't know why I would ever be on the chopping block unless I just couldn't afford it. Plastic Man No More, issue number 2. Check it out this week. Cover price is $4.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And that's it. Those are the 4 books on my DC Comics pull list. And for those, I'm going to pay a total of $20 if I stick to the list. By the way, if you buy 4 DC titles in any given week of new comics, it qualifies you to get a Justice League membership card from your LCS. So I'm not saying you got to pad the stats and buy 4 books just because, but that's what I'm doing. I want that Justice League card. I'm a nerd. Anyway, that's it for DC. Let's go ahead and see what's going on at the House of Ideas. At Marvel Comics, we got a brand new number 1 from Murewa Ayodele. This is Storm, issue number 1. Art in this series is handled by Lucas Wernick, who you might remember from, he did the second to the last arc in Wolverine, if I'm not mistaken. He did some stuff in the Fall and Rise of the House of X and Powers of 10. All that. You know him from the Fall of X era is my point. And he draws a mean Storm. Storm, this brand new I keep saying mini series. I think this Storm book is actually an ongoing, which It's really cool. You know, Storm's one of my favorite mutants. I love her moments in the Claremont era. I was just thumbing through the Mutant Massacre Prelude omnibus, and there's this whole point where she's like playing security guard in this village, and some people come and try to prey on the locals there in Kenya, and she is not having it. Anyway, Storm's always dope. In this series, I assume Storm is going to get her just due. I've been seeing some teaser images. I'm not crazy familiar with this writer. I know he's got this other book called like Akogun, and people are crazy about it. So hopefully some of that magic comes over to the Storm book. I'm just excited to see my girl get a title. Cover price on this is $4.99. And honestly, you can't go wrong with any of the covers for this book. But I think I'm going to go with the Jerome Opeña foil variant. It really depends on like where the shiny parts of it are, but that's a cool cover. Anyway, next up, speaking of Storm, Ultimate Black Panther issue number 9 is out this week from Brian Edward Hill. I believe Brian Edward Hill. I got issue 7 right here. Stefano Caselli. I was going to say Stefano Raphael. That's a different guy. Stefano Caselli is doing art on Ultimate Black Panther, and this book has been great. I think it might be, it's so hard to rank the Ultimate Universe titles, but I love Ultimate Spider-Man, The Ultimates, and Ultimate Black Panther. I feel like it goes Ultimates, Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate Spider-Man, and they're honestly 1A, 1B, and 1C at times. But the point is, Ultimate Black Panther, really, I love it because it's like, this is the 616 T'Challa that we all want and deserve. Like, there are minor differences that like make this distinctly an ultimate title, especially with this whole thing with like vibranium having a sort of counter substance that we don't, but at the core of this is sort of T'Challa dealing with the fact that he's a master tactician. He is a scientist. He is a thinker. And so much of what T'Challa is very much like faith-based. And he's going to have to tap into new levels of faith if he is going to beat the forces of Ra and Khonshu, collectively known as the Moon Knight. It's been very, very interesting, this series has, and I cannot wait for issue 9. Cover price on it is $4.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And last book on the Marvel pull list this week, honestly could be a chopping block contender. This is X-Men issue number 5. I don't think I read issue 4. I think this is one of those things where issue 4 just came out like a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know if I can do 18 issues of X-Men in a year. Like, I don't need that many along with Uncanny and Exceptional and Wolverine and NYX. And there's a new X title like every week. So, I don't know. I'm going to finish out this story arc, but this might be the first X title to go. Anyway, that's going to do it for my Marvel pull list. This one has a cover price of $4.99. I'm grabbing cover A. But that's it. Those 3 books make up my entire Marvel pull list. So if I stick to the list, those will cost me $15 this week. And let's skip on over to the indies, where got a brand new one here from Oni Press or EC Comics. This is Cruel Universe issue number 3. It's a sci-fi anthology, and I always enjoy at least one of the stories in there. And I'm trying to like do better at reading sci-fi. I don't read sci-fi very often at all, unless you count Ryan North's Fantastic Four. Then I read it every month. So this is a great way for me to dip my toe into different sci-fi stories. Some of them I like better than others, but I always love those Greg Smallwood covers. A great reason to buy it. Cover price is $4.99. I'm grabbing cover A. Here's an indie I'm a little bit more excited about. This is I Lie Popeye, issue number 2 from Massive Publishing. This will be like the first glimpses of this series that I've gotten that were brand new. We had the free comic book day issue. We had an issue that was kind of online for a little while, but got taken down before this was published. But I Lie Popeye number 2, written and drawn by Marcus Williams. The only gripe I had about it was like the lettering was kind of small. So I'm curious to see how they fix that, or if they fix that for issue number 2. But it's Popeye in this really cool, like anime inspired, like Dragon Ball Z inspired art style and kind of a Dragon Ball Z inspired story. There was definitely like a Princess Snake moment in the first issue that I loved. So I've been enjoying it. We'll see just how the rest of it goes. Cover price on it is $4.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And last book on the indie list this week for me is The Walking Dead Deluxe, issue 98. We have been marching and marching and marching on to issue 100 with this Walking Dead Deluxe. If you didn't know, Walking Dead Deluxe is a reprint of The Walking Dead, but in full color. And the colors are awesome. And it's got little extras in the back, letters, pages, and sort of behind the music moments with Robert Kirkman. It's been really cool, really insightful. Cover price on issue 98, though, is $3.99. I'm grabbing cover A, and that's it. Those are the indies on my pull list this week. As long as I stick to the list, those are going to cost me $18, which brings us to a grand total before taxes, before my 10% subscriber discount at Fight or Flight Comics. Shout out to you guys opening a new store this Wednesday. My grand total is going to be $53. So I'm cool with that. After my discount, I'm just under budget, and that works for me. But it does mean I don't really have any room in the budget for any of these books that are on the radar. Let's run through them real quick, though. New number one, starting with DC's I Know What You Did Last Crisis, issue number one. It's a horror anthology. I think one of the lead stories written by Dan DiDio, but there's kind of a who's who of writers and artists. And it's a $9.99 book. But what I love about these anthologies is being able to like try out writers and artists that you don't get to see often, or sometimes they're brand new and it's this like their tryout book. So it's cool to see what kind of talent the big two is looking at and who might end up with books later on. But again, $9.99 cover price. Next up, from Ghost Machine and Image Comics, this is Hyde Street, issue number one, written by Jeff Johns. Art in it is by Ivan Reyes, if I'm not mistaken. But Hyde Street marks the beginning of like their new horror universe. And you guys know I don't usually do horror books, but I got to read a preview of this, just one of the short stories that's in this sort of horror anthology. It's about this Boy Scout who basically like is a killer, but he apparently is only killing people who have like harmed children in some way. So he's like the Spectre, but in a creepy little kid thing. So I don't know. That story was interesting to me. Just like, okay, well, why is he killing these people? What's going on? But definitely horrific. If you want to stay away from horror, you're going to want to stay away from Hyde Street. Number one is out. Cover price, $3.99. Next up, from Dynamite. Speaking of things that I don't typically read, this is Barbarella issue number one. It's written by Blake Northcutt with art by Anna Morosova. Now, Anna Morosova is an artist originally from the Soviet Union or Russia. It's Russia, right? Soviet Union is like super old name. Anyway, the point is, Anna or Anya is basically, this is her Western comics debut. She's done a ton of stuff for 2000 AD, but this will be her first entry into like the American direct market. And her art is really beautiful. We had a great conversation for the Comics Are Dope podcast that you'll hear next week, just about the types of stories she wants to tell and what she's trying to do with Barbarella. And it seems to be more sci-fi than sexy, but I'm excited if that's the case. Cover price on Barbarella number one is $4.99, and that's cover A. Next up, for those interested, Space Usagi is getting another installment. This is White Star Rising, issue number one. I haven't read any Space Usagi, but Mitch would kill me if I didn't put it on the list. So $4.99 on that from Dark Horse this week. And the last book I want to shout out from Zombie Love Studios is Werewolf Frankenstein, issue number one. This is written by friend of the show, Chris Robinson, who has been on the Comics Are Dope podcast before. And spoiler alert, he will be on it again this week. We're going to talk about his writing career, a former editor at Marvel Comics, now in the writer's chair, putting together really cool books. Werewolf Frankenstein is a book about, well, a werewolf Frankenstein, who just wants to be human again. But this book was originally a Kickstarter book. This is the direct market debut, just in time for spooky season. Again, It's October. Really, really well done book, though. I have the PDF. It's great. Check it out. Hopefully your local comic shop ordered it. But anyway, $4.99 on that. And those are all the books that are on the radar this week. A stacked week indeed. But that's always the case. Always a great comic. Let me know what you're reading in the comments down below. And if the comment section isn't hopping enough for you, check out our Discord server. Links also in the description down below. Once again, a huge shout out to Global Comics for sponsoring this video. You got to check them out for some of these indie comics. I guarantee a lot of them will be on there. So check that out, and I'll see you guys in another one real soon. Till then, stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.